So I was listening to a podcast today, and I could like kind of tell by the tone of voice of the guy, the host, like that something was different.
Uh-huh.
I won't name him in case somebody cares. But I was like, man, and you know what I actually thought? Like, is he drunk? Like, is he?
So you're trying to reenact that?
No. I've just had a couple of sips. You know, it's
Was he
after
drunk?
5 o'clock. He didn't say he was drunk, but it was just
You're just wondering.
I just wondered. So I wonder if people can sense the tension in our voices from the experience we just had.
Yeah, I was like, it's so pretty outside. Let's go on a walk with the dog.
Yeah, we knew that tonight was podcast recording night. The weather's phenomenal. We had a good, productive day. And so it's like, let's just take a quick walk with the dog.
Get our blood flowing.
Yeah.
Instead, we got all of our cortisol released.
So our dog on the way back got attacked by two pit bulls. And
That were not,
Jessica was holding.
That were not on a leash.
Yeah, not on a leash. Our dog was on a leash. Jessica had the leash. And then Jessica had, a flash of terror and dropped the leash after you could see these dogs meant business. And then I think I flashed back to like early Karate Kid, memories from that movie.
You were just like trying to kick the dogs off of our dog, but they were fierce and super aggressive.
Yeah, like they latched on to our dog's neck, and I'm,
He's
kicking him.
bleeding.
And then the owner comes over and is like, "Don't kick my dog." And I'm like, "Lady, get your dog off my dog. Your dog is attacking ours."
It was a whole experience.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We went from like winding down to wound
hopefully
up.
we don't sound too tense.
Yeah. So,
Our dog
anyway,
is okay.
And the dog seems to be okay.
Our dog has some little bite marks and some blood, but he seems generally okay.
We've been reliving this moment. Like, what if I was wearing steel-toed boots? I may have done some damage. No, it was. It got our blood flowing a little bit, and we're going to go ahead and continue to roll into podcast time. So our last podcast conversation was actually one that we recorded fairly long time ago, I think back in May, and it was our discussion about form versus function.
I don't remember it.
Of course not. But it was mostly along the lines of how we make, kind of design decisions as it relates to the shop, and maybe even specifically the current coffee shop they're working on right now. And now we are towards the end of this process, and we've had to make some changes midstream, and I thought it might be interesting to see how you feel sort of right now. And I also kind of wanted to tie it back to motherhood, like specifically like the gestation cycle of a child.
It's funny because I do always say when we're opening a shop, it's time to birth the baby, but this one has been exactly 9 months.
So far.
Yeah.
I mean, no, actually it's been more than 9 months.
Maybe, yeah.
But it does sort of feel that way. And
Yeah.
I've been around very pregnant women at those later stages before, and it's, as a man, it's difficult to truly empathize, but I have a lot of sympathy for those last few weeks. How close? Okay, obviously this is apples and oranges here, but like, is that a fair analogy?
Yes, it just starts getting very uncomfortable, and I would say that's where we're at with this project. I know both of us are ready to get back to the other parts of our business that we've kind of sidelined, mostly in a leadership way. We both kind of know this is not our best use of our time.
Yeah. We made a decision early on. So there's like form versus function, and then there's also sort of like cost benefit analysis of, should you hire somebody to do something, or should you try and do it yourself and save money? And a lot of like DIY, homeowners, they make that cost benefit analysis, and then they become somewhat proficient.
I feel like this has been a tough lesson for us to learn. But I will say, it's gone both ways. There have been certain things that we have paid a lot of money for, and it still has taken forever and still is maybe not up to our standard. And then on the other side, we're like, oh, we can we can build the benches and we'll build the deck and some of these like carpentry things. Yeah, and
things that we've done around the house maybe previously or in previous smaller versions of our shops.
4,000 square feet.
Yeah.
It is just a big project. And I mean, where we're at now, I know that we should have hired probably a construction firm.
Yeah.
And when I think of how much money we've spent, we probably would pay about the same amount. So next time, just remind me of this podcast. I need to listen to it. I need to just bite the bullet, get a bigger construction loan, because I always think that I can do things for less than what they actually cost.
That was going to be like the question asked, like with hindsight being 2020 or practically hindsight. We're still in the middle of it, but like if you could go back 7 months and have a conversation with yourself of like, hey, this is what you're in for. Would you choose differently?
Yes. Yes.
No hesitation.
Because I think both time and money have become a problem. It's not only drug out so long, but now we're in a position where we really don't have the budget left to hire anyone. So it's kind of like we're stuck in this bad spot.
We're stuck with ourselves.
We're stuck with ourselves. SOS again. I keep saying this every podcast, but we are stuck with ourselves and trying to... I feel like I've been perpetually saying we're 3 weeks away too. And it's a bit of like a Groundhog Day effect now where people are like, oh, how close are you? Oh, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
But then it just never seems to like move past that.
Yeah. I definitely agree that if I could go back in time, I would say, yeah, let's go ahead and pay some folks for it.
Yeah. And the thing is we did hire someone, but small. Very small crew.
Yeah. It ended up being bigger than
we needed a big, like a whole construction crew of 10 guys or something.
Yeah. So that makes it... So what's interesting is, let's go... I'm going to do like a flashback within a flashback. So the only reason, or maybe not the only reason, but one of the reasons that you agreed and wanted to take on this project was because of your estimation of its size and our capacity for being able to do it. And it wasn't until we started to sort of peel the layers back, like literally, like look behind the wall to see what the, flooring and studs look like, that it was clear that it was a larger project. So if you could go all the way back and you knew that it would be that big of a project, would you still do it?
Would I have even purchased? In a lot of ways, it's been still perfect because it's right next to our current roastery. So when we were moving that heavy piece of equipment yesterday, I was talking with Ethan and Mindy, and I was like, imagine if we were having to move all this stuff like across town and we were driving, 20 minutes between every trip, where right now we're rolling it across the parking lot. So there was some things that have lined up really well. I think I still would do it. I think there's definitely, like, if we're just talking about our relationship, I've definitely resented you at times as I get more tired.
I didn't ask that.
Tired.
Where's this podcast going?
This is a confessional.
All right.
And I'm losing sleep at night. I'm not sleeping well. I'm up worrying for 3 or 4 hours. So are you.
Yeah.
And we actually have asked ourselves if we want to watch a movie now in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. because we're both awake. Yeah. And we don't know how to fall back asleep because we're just sitting there worrying. But I think there's been some resentment from me because I don't think I was ready to... I wasn't ready for the duration of this project. Like, my dentist today said, how was your summer? And I looked at him and I said, not good. How's that? Which we went to high school together and it was fine. Like, I could have been more polite, but I was honest.
Well, I think the thing for me, I agree. I would still do it. I still am glad that we took a big swing.
It's like the vision is there.
Yeah, and as those final pieces are starting to come together, it is starting to get satisfying of like, okay, something is happening. And again, sort of taking it back to like birth, Like, you can tell that something's happening there in that last trimester, especially the second and third trimesters. But then it's like, let's go ahead and get this thing done so we can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, I would say right now, for me, I'm trying to make those calculations on if it's worth it to slow down and take our time and do all the design things that we want to do, or if we should just open, and then we know how hard it is to do anything once we open, because we're open 7 days a week.
Sure.
We're open, 360 days a year. So I'm trying, because I'm impatient. I can't even sit through one of your stories.
How was your day? Get on with it.
You were telling a really long story earlier, and I was like, okay, I'm good. I don't need to know every detail of what you did at the gym today.
Yeah, but it was
just tell me if it was hard or not.
Such a good gym story. You'll never know. It's okay.
I'll never know.
The Honeymoon Coffee Company podcast is brought to you this week by More Guitars. More Guitars is based in Evansville, Indiana, but ships all sorts of guitars all over the country. Les Pauls, Gibsons, Fenders, and a whole bunch of other guitar brands that I've never even heard of. In fact, if you know guitars, you probably already know about More Guitars. But what you may not know is that they recently collaborated with us at the Evansville Coffee Company to create their own signature blends based on guitar pickups. The P90 and the single coil blend were a full body yes for Rob and Corey when we cupped them together down at our headquarters. So order them today and use the promo code PODCAST5 to get 5% off the P90 or the single coil or any other one of our blends from our partners at evansvillecoffee.com. Cheers.
So I don't know, how are you feeling in that instance? Do you feel like we should push and get the doors open, and then we can kind of put finishing touches on it later, or we should really take our time here and make sure every little detail is perfect?
No. Definitely the former. We need to. I think we need to get open.
Wait. Former? I always get confused. Is that the first one or the last one?
Okay, so say them both together in your head and see if it's clear.
It's not.
Okay, former, and what's the other one?
Latter?
Okay, so latter is
later.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's an easy way for me to remember it. You just got to quickly say it in your head. Former, latter, later. Okay, former first. Okay, got it. Done. Yes. So the first thing that you said.
So let's get open.
I agree. Let's get open, because the reality is, like, nothing is ever done. Nothing is ever perfect.
I feel like I hear that so much in entrepreneurship stories where people tried to make everything perfect, and if they would have just launched,
sure,
it all
perfect
would have
is
been
the
better.
enemy of the good.
But I feel like we're really good at not being that way.
Not being perfect.
we're kind of accepted that with 3 stores, it's just not always perfect.
Yeah,
there's something usually going wrong somewhere.
Sure.
But I am struggling with the kind of tension of wanting to make it the way that I want it.
I'm struggling with the fact that I am not very good at some of these things that I've wanted to
be good at,
take a crack at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so do you know who Sir Ken Robinson is? /was? He died.
Yes, Zach. Thank
you do?
You for saying it in a way that you think I'm stupid.
I was trying to enunciate it. You want me to say in a British accent? Sir Ken Robinson.
You made me listen to his TED Talk.
Yeah. Well, it's like the #1 TED Talk of all time. Yeah. Anyway, so in his TED Talk, he tells a story about this little girl who is trying to draw a picture, and she's just drawing furiously. And the teacher comes up to her and says, "What are you doing?" And she looks up and says, "I'm drawing a picture of God." And the teacher says, "Well, nobody knows what God looks like." And the girl, without skipping a beat, looks up at the teacher and says, "Well, they will in a minute."
She'll have it done.
Which is, so then he ties it back to, like, that's how kids are. Like, if they don't know, they'll have a go.
Yeah.
And that's sort of like a mantra that I've sort of sometimes implicitly, sometimes explicitly said, like, okay, I don't know, but I'm going to have a go and I'm going to try this and see if I can figure it out.
Yeah. And I think like I try to hold you back.
Say that again?
I feel like you do that, and then I try to like ground you. And be
Which you should sometimes, because I
know, but in this instance, I
totally
was like, okay, well, if you really want it, I guess we can do it. And then it's just gotten like super out of control
Yeah,
from
yeah.
there.
So, yeah, that mantra is I'm going to go ahead and retire it, or at least minimize it, lessen it, significantly.
Yeah.
If I don't know, I'm going to hire somebody who does.
Yeah.
In fact, my new mantra is going to be, when in doubt, hire it out.
Okay. I'm going to remind you of that.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you, I think, said you wanted to build a deck at our house after you started over there.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see.
But what are the things like that you think we've been, putting on the back burner? What are you
when you
excited
said that,
to get back to?
When you mention the time thing, I think the calculation that I did was based on sort of what is my time worth, like trying to put a dollar amount on it, or what else would I be doing with my time in terms of mostly like productivity. But what I didn't really realize or calculate was that it sapped so much of my energy to be able to invest in the relationships with our team. That is, like, if I'm being honest, like, that's when I'm at my best.
Wait, you said it saps your energy.
Correct. That's what I'm saying. When I have the energy to invest in our team, that's like one of my best powers.
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the things that I'm actually good at.
And I feel like we were doing so well before we started the West Side. After we had opened Newburgh, we were having leadership trainings with our managers. You were doing a biscuits with the boss that was fun. Like, we were having soup nights at our house. We were going all out, and then it was like, we haven't done any of that since we've started doing construction.
And so when you talk about time, that's what comes up for me is not just can I do it, but it's like, should I do it, and at what cost of what else I could be doing, and what's needed. And it's not all about saving money or learning how to do something interesting. And I also, if I'm being honest, I feel, this won't surprise you at all, I feel some responsibility to like our customers who had been excited about a possible summer opening.
Yeah,
and
I know.
It is.
I know that is something I was like, Zach, you have to let that go.
Yeah.
You have this like, I have to do it for the customer because they are wanting it, but we can only do it as fast as we can do it.
I know. Except we could have done it faster if we would have hired a larger crew. So that's where the cycle starts.
But we tried our best, and we're still trying our best. So have some grace with yourself there.
Okay, I'll try. Any final thoughts about? Did my analogy land in any other ways about just like sort of having a child, and like, so you're also at this point, this is your fourth location and your third one that you got to have a significant part of the construction.
It did land a little bit more. I feel like every time you have a kid, you get a little less. Obviously, you don't have the checklist. You're a little more fly by the seat of your pants. I was so organized with our list of what we needed to purchase for Newburgh. I was there every day just kind of overseeing everything that needed ordered. And here I'm like, oh wait, I forgot. We need parking bumpers. Wait, I haven't ordered a hand wash sink. I mean, just all over the place. And part of it, I think, is because we're not sleeping.
Well, then at the same time that you're trying to gestate this new baby / store, like the other store is still, it's learning to walk, and the ice machine needs to be repaired, and the sink is starting to leak. And
but I will say, we have such a great team.
Yeah.
That I haven't noticed anything. I did work a couple shifts in the last week just because I was like, I need to get back in the stores, make sure everything's running okay. And I was there, and things were fine, and customers were delighted, and product looked good, and all of those things. So I will say, our team does a great job of kind of holding it down right now. And I think they're also ready to be done.
Yeah. And
So part of me feels bad that we've subjected them to another store opening.
Sure,
Although
sure.
I will say I think they think it's exciting, but I'm sure just as I resent you at times, there could be some resentment there as well.
Yeah. Well, we have joked about we've had our fair amount of trauma bonding.
We have. We have. And that's the thing. We've become so close with our team that we just trust them.
I just remembered, like, I guess we put it out of our minds. We had some trauma bonding with the actual machines that we talked about in the last episode, the San Franciscan roasters.
Getting the 1,400 pound roasters up a level into our building.
Yeah, that was
without a forklift.
we looked and fretted and freaked out, and then our good friend and podcast producer Wes happened to be running by. Like, this is a true story. Happened to be running by, saw that we were busy, said, "Oh, I don't know if I want to bother them. I feel like I should go over there." And pops over, and we're like, here's what we've got to do, and we don't know how to do it, and we can't find...
I'm trying to call rental companies to get some sort of forklift. This is an example of me being really worried about something. So I'm also really worried about the venting, just so you know.
Okay.
So I was really worried about getting these roasters up, because you have to take them upstairs.
About 4.5 feet off the ground.
Yeah, the stage is about 4.5 feet off the ground. I didn't know how we were going to do it. But I was like, don't panic. It won't be as bad as you think. And then when they got there...
That was your mantra?
Yeah, that was my mantra the whole time.
It won't be as bad as you think.
Because it was a 3-month process of them building these machines.
Right.
So I put it out of my head. I said, don't worry. You're making this a bigger deal than it is. It's going to be fine. They get there, and they are enormous and so heavy. And no one knows how we're going to get them up. And I'm calling rental companies. No one's answering. I get a hold of one guy. He's trying to help me. I'm taking pictures of the site.
Yeah, they were 7 feet tall, 4 feet wide, and 1,500 pounds.
So it ended up that a neighbor across the street, Wes's father-in-law, had are those called bobcats?
Oh, I don't know what they're called. But he, like, gets on the horn with his father-in-law, like, gets him on FaceTime, was like, hey, I don't know what you're doing, but we are in a serious pickle. And
I love that you use pickle.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But he's like, they're on FaceTime, and he's like, all right, here's the crates, here's the hole, here's the height. And he's like, all right, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And he, like, dropped everything and brought his son over. And
I know. It really was. It was such a, like, heartwarming, it would be how I would describe it, to have... It felt very old-fashioned.
Sure. Like a barn raising.
Yes,
like
yeah. It was like this neighbor sees that we need help and comes across the street with his heavy machinery, and we're able to lift it into the opening of our building.
Not without a moment of
crises.
Peril.
Yep.
So Wes is standing on the forklift, counterbalancing the weight, and we get it up in the air, and we're about to sort of figure out how we're going to lift it, push it, pull it, I don't know. And he hops off, and it's just enough weight taken off that the whole thing starts to tip. And this is an expensive machine. It's beautiful, but it's expensive. And his father-in-law is there on the other side, and it's about to tip on him.
It was slow motion.
And I ran over there and pushed it back up, and he pushed it back up, and Wes jumped back on the other side and counterbalanced it. But, like, it was harrowing.
It really was. I kind of wish
we started this podcast with a harrowing, neighbor story, and we're finishing it with another harrowing neighbor story.
Maybe we just need to go to a beach somewhere and have a non-harrowing time.
But yeah, it did end with we all like felt like we went through something together.
Yeah, it felt like we had run a marathon somehow. And also, like, I think Mindy said, it was like the very best day she's ever had combined with the worst. And it somehow made sense.
Yeah. So we'll always remember getting it in there. And
we're never moving.
To wrap it up, your assessment of its beauty now that you see it in person?
Oh, it's so pretty. It's
really
beautiful.
Is. Like, it exceeded my expectations.
Every single construction worker that comes, I give them the entire tour. I show them the roasters, and, like, it's amazing. Like, they're all stunned, and they think it's just the coolest thing.
It's a piece of equipment, but it's beautiful. And it roasts coffee.
Yeah. Not yet, but we will be roasting coffee soon.
Form and function. All right. I love you.
Good night.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show this week. If you'd like to learn more about Honeymoon Coffee Company, check them out on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. If you'd like to submit a question for a future episode, visit honeymooncoffeeco.com/podcast. This podcast was produced by Wally Opus with editing by Brooklyn Hoffititz, music composed by Sam Cuban, and project management by me, Wesley Luttrell. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back again soon.
All right. Do you think people are going to be worried about Snoopy?
I'm looking at him right now, and he is wagging his tail.
Yeah.
He is happy as a clam.
It was terrifying in the moment, but it looks like,
He's
aside from a few scratches, he has white fur and some black spots, and he is the answer to that joke. What's black and white and red all over? He's got a couple of blood spots.
Zach.
What? It's a joke.
Should I rub hydrogen peroxide or alcohol on them?
I think that would hurt him, but maybe it's good. I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't want it to get infected. He does have a couple bite wounds where the dog's jaws were literally around his neck.
Yeah. But at least now we know how we would respond in a moment of doggy terror.